So my first question is the easy one. Tell me about what you do and how long you've been doing it.
I am a pharmacist by training. Early 2021, we started a new company called EmsanaRx. Interesting organization in the fact that we have been brought to market by a group called the Purchaser Business Group on Health. PBGH is a business coalition of some of the largest employer groups in the country. So think Walmart, Microsoft, Boeing. So as we really even think about what employers are looking for, what employees are looking for, that's a big part of our job every day from a pharmacy benefit standpoint to help these organizations bring a better benefit. And then, of course, looking internally to our own organization as we think about how we treat our employees, what they're looking for, what their needs are. It's just really a constant evolution, part of our daily jobs.
I was reading about your company and it's fascinating.
Interesting industry we're in. Lots of bad, so we're hoping to bring a little bit of good to it.
I'm sure you will, and you already are. So what are some of the key issues that you're seeing in terms of finding employees for your business or for your industry in particular?
Well, the obvious answer for us is we live in a very unique world. It's a very small industry. It takes a lot of specialization. There's a lot of just pharmaceutical knowledge that goes into it. And there's not a ton of people that we can hire into this industry. The other part of it is most of the people who know the industry work for organizations that are very legacy. So here's kind of how the industry works. Here's how they do it. And so to bring them in because we're trying to do something different is really hard for us. So we really are trying to say, how do we take a step back? And if we want to do something different, really get a good mix of some industry knowledge and experience, but people who really don't know what's going on in the industry, but are passionate about kind of our mission, vision, and values, which is about bringing integrity, clarity, and trust to this industry. So for perspective, like our marketing leader, our VP of marketing, never worked in healthcare. And when I offered her the job, she's like, Greg, are you sure you want to hire me? I don't know anything about pharmacy. And I was like, Katie, you're the perfect person for this job because it's such a complex industry that if you're creating marketing materials and putting them out to the public that you don't understand, guess what? They don't understand it either. So we're trying to be really thoughtful to say, how do we bring in people that are just passionate, good people that we can train, and they're going to really help expand upon what we're trying to do because we don't need people who completely understand the industry in all areas. Places we do and places we don't. So we're casting a wide net and really just trying to say culturally who fits, who's got that great personality, that great mission, and internal drive to do what we want to do. And then sometimes we're just gonna have to teach them the industry, and that's fine because that's what we want to do.
Sounds like you've got a lot of clarity on your vision and mission and culture, which has got to be a huge advantage when you're looking for potential employees.
I think it is, yes.
Do you consider yourself a disruptor, or is it a better mousetrap?
That's a great question. I laugh because we spend a lot of time talking about that. Do we want to be a disruptor or do we want to be an innovator? And the interesting part about our business is we sell into the benefits organization with any large company. So we go to the global benefit leader, and a lot of benefits people are very risk averse. They don't want to bring in a product or services that could cause problems to their organization or their people or, hassle, drive up cost, any of those things. We are always trying to be thoughtful to say, how do we talk to them in a way that makes sense? And so sometimes when you say disruption, they're like, I don't know if I want disruption. That's not a good word. Then you say innovator, and sometimes that sounds like, this is like this new shiny thing. I don't know if I want new and shiny. That sounds scary too. So we joke internally all the time. We're not exactly sure what we want to be. We know we're a PBM just like the other PBMs, but maybe our mousetrap is not better. It's just not firmly driven to drive profit into our organization and therefore increase costs for our clients. And we want to do it in a more transparent, holistic fashion.
I'm sure you've been asked that many times. So thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
And I think that answers my next question, which is what makes you stand out in your industry? And you're doing a lot of things differently.
I think the one thing that I haven't brought up that's really important to highlight from that standpoint is we are a public benefit corporation. And so interestingly, when you're standing up a company, and I came out of a lot of corporate environments, so this whole like start your company thing is really new to me. It's been an interesting ride a couple of years in at this point. But, as you're talking to people, everybody says, well, if you're starting a company, you just go to Delaware and you become a C Corp. So we went to Delaware, we started as a C Corp. That's kind of what everybody told us to do. But then as we were doing our creation of the bylaws, articles of incorporation, and really kind of starting that foundation of who we want to be as an organization, we were working with some corporate attorneys and we were saying, hey, we're going to be mission driven. This is not about creating pools of profit and just doing bad by, our clients and their members. And at one point in time, our main corporate attorney says like, hey, time out, guys. That's all sweet and wonderful, what you guys keep saying, but as your attorney, I need to be real honest with you guys that you guys are all board members and Greg's on the board, and Greg, you're also an officer of the company. And as such, your legal and fiduciary responsibility is to make as much money as possible for your shareholder. That's your job. Your job is not to do all this other fuzzy stuff over here you're talking about. And we were like, oh, again, that's kind of the problem in healthcare is it's run by for-profit companies who need to make more profit next year than they made this year. And that's exactly what we were trying not to be. So we spent a lot of time and effort trying to say, well, if part of the problem is everybody's profit driven and we just did that ourselves, like, oops, that was dumb. So we went back and converted to a public benefit corporation. And as such, now we are not beholden to shareholder. We really can say, here's the right thing for the American public. Here's why drug affordability is a problem. And we're not going to be part of that same problem. So, I think from a foundation standpoint of who we are, how we've incorporated, how we've brought on investment, and then that culture that we've created is really going to help us drive better affordability of prescription drugs in America.
That's got to be very attractive when it comes to looking for employees as well.
I would think so, yes.
So as you've grown, what are the challenges that you've been facing and what have you learned?
The big thing is we grow, and unfortunately, the challenge with our industry is we really only can sell business at the start of the year. So, that's when a benefit cycle starts, that's when people might change from an old PBM to a new PBM. So we have a very, very long sales cycle. Right now, it's starting for January 1st of 2024. So it's very extended to do that. And while we knew that as we got into it, I think part of our initial thought was, we can get out there and really share our story and let people understand who we are, hopefully win a couple small pieces of business and then continue to grow from there. But we didn't tell the story on how we were different or better well enough in the beginning. People heard, well, you're a PBM, you kind of do it different. Cool. Like, I don't know if I like that. You're new. Again, you're a disruptor, you're innovating. Like, I don't want any of that. So what I think has really been good for us over the last 6 months is to do some more interviews with our customers or who will be our customers and say, like, if we say this, what do you hear? And is that impactful to you or not? So we've really tried to get into the customer's mindset, figure out where their pain points are, create solutions that fill those holes for them, and then explain it in a way that helps them understand, here's what everybody else is doing, here's what you're not getting out of this, here's what you need, and here's what we've created to uniquely meet those needs that doesn't exist anywhere else over here. So our biggest pivot potentially is really how we thought about bringing our product to market and the message by which we want to do so that we're more impactful to our customer.
That is something that I really work with my clients on. Your first level of market research, talk to your customers.
Exactly.
Ask them what they need, what they want. Well done. There are people who've been in business for years that have not figured that out. You're on the right track with that.
We celebrate failure a lot. So it's, hey, when you fail, just what's the big thing you learned from it? How do we do it better the next time? So it was a couple failures in the beginning that got us where we needed to go.
Who's your team right now?
We've got a small team, but it's kind of hard to represent, right? So we've got 12 full-time employees on our own, but we're very thoughtful and trying to make sure that we don't just overspend. So, then you've got a consultant for finance, consultant for legal, a lot of consultants for some implementation work. So we are trying to say, we need this core group of people to build a, unique product and service and let us bring it to market. These other roles, we don't need to bring them in right now because they're just not full-time work. So we're trying to, again, just be very financially thoughtful as we grow. And until we start bringing on bigger blocks of business, we feel really good about the different consultant relationships we've built and how we're using them, just so we can make sure that we're using our resources and then therefore billing our clients in the future appropriately. And we're not just spending $50, $100 million on these huge teams because we can, right? But then ultimately that money's got to come back out of somebody else downstream.
You've put a lot of thought into growing your team and what roles you wanted and who you wanted in them. What advice would you give to somebody else who is looking to grow a very purposeful team?
I think one of the big things that we didn't do well enough in the beginning, and again, when you're growing and you're small, it's like word of mouth, right? Like, hey, we know people. And so you kind of bring in people that you know, but I think we did a little bit of that in the beginning, but then we started really kind of branching out to look kind of for a more diverse workforce. You know, if I hire a bunch of people I know who think might like me, live in Kentucky, say, you know, we're going to get a really good Kentucky-centric product with people that probably think like Greg. And that's not the best way, I think, to run the business. So we've really brought in somebody from Dallas, Texas, somebody else from Southern California just in the last couple of weeks. Again, very unique, diverse backgrounds. So meshing them into the team. And we then spend a lot of time around quarterly in-person team meetings to continue to grow that culture, get people working together, get that common shared vision. But then also you have time to do dinner and build those personal relationships. Because what we also learned is having a diverse team is good, but it's also really hard, right? Because then everybody thinks a little different, and we like people to challenge each other because that's how we're going to get the best possible product out there. But to figure out how to do that in a way where positive intent is always the vein of, you know, the conversation. Like, hey, I don't necessarily agree with what you just said, but let me tell you why I'm coming at it from the angle I am. And then they can talk about why they're coming at it from the angle they are. When you can really have those productive conversations, I think it gets everybody more educated and they can open up their horizons and do something different and better. But yet, from a management standpoint, that makes it a lot harder to run the company and create this good culture because you're trying to weave these different backgrounds together.
Are you fully remote?
We are right now, yes.
I'm in the middle of running an employee engagement program, and that same thing pretty much came up today about when you hear a message from someone, what's their perspective? What's the background? What's the context? You can't look at it through your lens. You have to listen through theirs. And it was a very powerful moment for the group. It's not easy.
It's not, but the payoff to get it right is worth the effort.
Absolutely. So I think you already touched on some of this. If you could begin again, what would you do differently? You know, you started off with the C Corp and changed that, but is there anything else that you would take in a different direction?
Well, there's probably a lot of things that we should have done different back in the day. One of my kind of superpowers, as people always say, is I really have a good ability to forget the bad and just keep moving forward and focus on the good. So it's really hard to kind of say, like 18 months ago, what did we screw up and how bad did we screw it up? And what would we have done different if we could? I don't know. That's a tough
Greg, you're
question.
the true entrepreneur with that positive outlook.
Yeah, it's just like, forget it, move on, because we're going in this direction. So yeah, learn from the past, but do it in a quick, failed way and then keep going.
Great advice.
Yeah, don't dwell on the past.
Perfect. What does the future hold? Where are you going with this business?
That's a really good question. We don't know. We're hopeful, but we don't know. Our industry is dominated by basically 3 companies that are, I think, all in the Fortune 12. So you're talking 3 of the biggest companies in the world by revenue and profit, size, scale, everything that they do. But they've created an industry that, again, is driving up drug costs because that increases their profit. And we're trying to say, let's educate everybody and talk about why that's not good, why there's bad things that occur when you allow these market forces to continue. And maybe we can nudge this market in a better direction. We haven't been the first ones to try this. Maybe we'll be the last, or hopefully not. We won't be the last. It depends on how you want to look at it. But, you know, we're not naive enough to say we're going to disrupt in one of the biggest industries in America and just be super successful at it. I think having that view of we could fail. Like, guys, let's just be honest. Like, we could not do this because we didn't get the message right. We didn't educate people on the problems. We had our head in the sand. So we do spend a lot of time talking about maybe it doesn't work. But if it does work and we can get it right, we then could start taking a lot of business from these big incumbents who I think are disadvantaging a lot of organizations and their employees and dependents. And hopefully we could get recognized for being an incredibly large company who grows very fast, but always does it in this basis of what's right for our clients, for their employees, the dependents, and the people who are really footing the bill for healthcare, and start changing this healthcare narrative in a different direction. So that's our hope, but we're not naive enough to think it's just a foregone conclusion we can get there.
You said you're already starting the sales process for 2024. What does 2023 look like?
We've been very, again, strategic by design. So start small. So we onboarded our first client 1/1/22. So worked with them, learned from, some of the things that happened there, got a couple more clients coming 1/1/23. And now we're to the point where we've got a great market message. We've got a couple differentiated products that I think really matter to self-funded employers. We've now got experience and references that can say, no, these folks really do a great job. So we just in the last month now have brought in a sales team to go out and say, here's what the market is, here's what they do, here's why they're different, here's why they're better. Let's bring that forward. So 23 was still a start small, because what we know about this industry is if you ever screw up once, everybody's going to know about it. So if we try to be, again, a for-profit company grows really fast because that's what you're supposed to do, and you screw up, you've just shot yourself in the foot. So we want to be very thoughtful and deliberate to say this industry did not get broke overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. But if we make hasty decisions in the beginning and try to grow too fast, we've killed all opportunity we have to make this industry better in the next 5 to 7 years. So let's not do that. Really, our plan is small 22, medium 23. And now that small and medium have been successful and we feel really good about that, now let's try to go big in 24.
Great. Anything else that you want to share with other business owners that are navigating these challenging times?
I think it goes back to a little bit what we talked about earlier. Don't get negative. Failure's part of it. We came into this knowing we were going to have our setbacks. It's not easy, but those setbacks, frankly, are what harden us and help us come together as a team. And when you can do that in the right way and not just be like, oh man, that's terrible. The sky is falling, this bad thing occurred. It's like, hey, no, that's part of it, right? We knew that all along, but let's get together. Let's talk about what we learned for it. Let's talk about how we're going to do something different and better. And let's continue to bob and weave. Even in our industry, we see some people who had some early success and now they're just really kind of struggling in the market. And it's because they had their direction and they're staying in that direction. And they think like, this is my North Star. I'm not going to look left or right. And nobody's got it figured out. So it's have a learning mentality, be willing to be flexible, be willing to be wrong, and bring a product to market that your customers want and need and know why they need it. So that probably is one of the biggest things that I think we've done well so far.
It sounds like you've done a lot of things well. Congratulations on that.